I want to go to Senator Rand Paul right now of Kentucky. He sits, by the way, on Senate Health Committee, among other things, a doctor by training. Senator, let me first off address the president's approach right now with the virus and now expanding this to pretty much every adult American by the 19th of this month to get the vaccine. What did you think of that?
You know, I think it's a good idea to expand the vaccine. The vaccine's a big reason why the incidence of the disease is going down each day and the deaths are going down. I think initially it was best to prioritize based on age and then second probably on obesity. And many states did this. In Florida, they really emphasized giving it to the elderly. And I think that helped Florida beat this quicker than other states. In many states, including my state also, they were giving it to 28-year-old volunteer firemen. And so that made no sense at all because they were not at risk for the disease. And I think really if you went after the elderly first, and we did, particularly in Florida, that was the best way to go. We have so much vaccine now, they're going to probably wind up with millions of extra doses. So by all means, open it up to all comers. Doctor more than they trust Dr. Fauci, and I would advise them to talk to their family doctor. And I think you'll get some other people who are hesitant who may take the vaccine when their family doctor talks to them about it.
You know, you mentioned Dr. Fauci, Senator, and I had him on last week, and your issue came up in the back and forth. He said he likes you, he doesn't know what the problem is here. But one of the things that did come up is you're blasting him on the mask issue and everything else, not specifically that, but he said he was taken out of context to say we should all wear masks in 2022. But he did argue you don't know. You got to take this sort of like a month at a time. I'm paraphrasing. But what do you make of that?
Here's the thing about Dr. Fauci. We should not have government mandates based on what we don't know. We should make mandates based on what we do know. When they can prove that something is a real problem, then let's consider a mandate. But here's the thing. The last time he had the pushback with me, he was saying, but what about the variants? You may have had the infection, you may have had the vaccine, but you may be susceptible to the variants. All of the studies so far show that the vaccine works well against most of the variants and that natural disease also works very well against the variants. In fact, a study that came out in January from his own institute, from one of his scientists that works for him, said that natural immunity, those who have gotten it the natural way, the way I have immunity to all of the variants as well. So what we need to do is not, push fear-mongering. Is it perfect? Do we know it's 1,000% perfect? No, but the burden should be on government to prove that there's widespread, people who have had it are now getting it by the tens of thousands, or people who are being vaccinated still are passing it along. Even the CDC this week admitted, before somebody made them roll it back, but the head of the CDC was on TV saying, if you've been vaccinated, we've discovered that you're not carrying it and you're not transmitting it. This is all good news, but these people can't stand good news because that means you get out from under their thumb and you're allowed to go back to living your life. They don't want you to be free of their mandates. They like the idea of submission because most of these people are at heart big government people.
Well, you mentioned what the CDC director said about those who have been vaccinated. I think she is still remaining cautious on those who have not been, Senator, and that you should look at travel carefully and weigh that cautiously.
I think she tried to walk back both statements, actually. But so far, the good news is we are finding long-standing T-cell mediated immunity, memory immunity to people who have had it. There are no big studies showing that we're getting widespread reinfection of those who have had it. It's very, very rare. 31 million people have had it in our country, and it's a handful to a couple of hundred that may have been reinfected, and there's been no surges related to reinfection. And the people get it, again, if they do, have already got some immunity, so they're typically getting a very mild form if they get it again.
Senator, if you don't mind, we can go back to what's going on in the fuss over this Georgia voting law. You had said regarding Major League Baseball and taking the game, the All-Star game out of Atlanta, if they want to boycott us, let's boycott them. What did you mean by that?
Well, does baseball, the nation's pastime, want to be the pastime for Democrats? Does Coca-Cola only want to sell Coke to Democrats? Does Delta only want to fly Democrats? They've taken such a hugely partisan look at this voting law that actually expands access to voting. It does some things to absentee voting, but it expands the early voting. There's now more early voting in Georgia than Denver. So what kind of logic or what kind of rule or standard are they using to judge which states we're going to play in baseball in? But the way they're treating a Republican-passed bill and the way they're treating Republicans tells me Coca-Cola doesn't want Republicans to drink their product, and Delta doesn't want Republicans on their plane, and Major League Baseball doesn't want Republicans in their stadium. But if so, they're foolish to anger half of the public by becoming so partisan, so woke. And look, in the end, they're all going to regret this. Stacey Abrams is already backtracking and saying, oh, my goodness, I didn't realize it was going to cost my state $100 million. Losing the Major League Baseball All-Star game cost Georgia $100 million, and Stacey Abrams is now responsible for that. Can you imagine that she wants to represent a state that she cost a $100 million contract because of lunacy and non-truth or lies about the election law that was passed?
You know, Mitch McConnell said of it about companies that do this sort of thing, that they'll invite serious consequences if they become a vehicle for the far-left mobs to hijack the country from outside the constitutional order. Do you agree with that?
I think the only thing that they will learn from is if people quit using their product. And this is across a wide array of things. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, who's taken my speeches down that were given on the Senate floor. They don't understand you trying to tell them they're being overbearing or that they shouldn't be so woke or they shouldn't be so liberal. Just quit using their products. And so the thing is we have about 40 to 45% of the American public are Republicans. If people disrespect you, if people don't have any respect for you or your political beliefs, don't use their services. If Coca-Cola wants to be the product, they want to be the soda of Democrats, that's fine. Otherwise, they need to stay the heck out of politics, because what they're doing is angering every Republican in the country. Look, you know, do you think the Republican National Convention is going to want to use Delta, or do you think they're going to want to do anything in association with any of these groups now? So they need to stay out of politics, or they need to suffer the repercussions of becoming partisan in their viewpoint.
And as you're probably aware today, Senator, the Senate parliamentarian went ahead and okayed that you can go ahead and push these infrastructure packages by a simple majority here without getting into the weeds. What she's essentially saying is Democrats can go ahead and do what they want to do in 2 infrastructure packages. And actually, there's another element in the new fiscal year to do the same in the next one. So that would be trillions of dollars or more spending. Part of that are higher taxes. Jeff Bezos right now is the first prominent CEO to say he's okay with that to support the president's infrastructure program. Others are expected to follow him. What do you make of that if corporate America actually ends up supporting the higher tax element of this?
Well, the facts show when you look at economic decisions based on taxes, that the higher the corporate tax, the less jobs that are created here and the more jobs that are shifted overseas. For probably a decade or more, there was a whole cottage industry in companies reincorporated in lower tax venues, in lower tax countries. Even Sweden, that the Bernie bros and the socialists in our country say, oh, we want to be like Sweden. Well, Sweden's had a lower corporate income tax than us for 20 years. These people who want to be like Sweden need to study Sweden, because it's nothing like the socialist sort of utopia they think it is. But they've actually had lower taxes. Sweden tried a wealth tax and it failed. They finally got rid of it. So I think that we need to rethink the idea that you can tax your way into prosperity. The history of higher corporate taxes is more jobs go overseas. You know, look at my town, for example. We make the Corvette Bowling Green. We added 400 people on the line, good paying jobs, because of the tax cut, because General Motors got hundreds of millions of dollars when we cut the corporate tax. The opposite happens. When it goes up, you'll lose jobs.
Got it. Senator, thank you very, very much. Senator Rand Paul in Washington on all these developments. We'll have a lot more after this.